Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast with your host, Trent M. Clark, 3-time World Series coach, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, having started 12 companies, coach to the 1%, and an international speaker. This show is going to be your go-to podcast for facing adversity, being inspired, and overcoming obstacles, all from the best in the world, business, sports, and leadership. Need to hydrate but tired of plain old water? You need Rebellious Infusions. No sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system. And L-theanine for brain health. 10 organic flavors and convenient liquid packets. Just add 16 ounces and you are on your way. Rethink your drink at drinkrebellious.com. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999.
Hi, this is Trent Clark. Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host and super excited to be with you on the Winners Find a Way show. For those tuning in for the first time, thrilled to be the coach who brings you more on leadership. Our show is founded on overcoming and facing the challenges that we face as leaders in organizations and as on our way to being a lead. I am the CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, longtime coach in professional baseball, coaching in 3 World Series. And I'm also a new partner in athletic influencer marketing, AIM, where we are assisting brand development for any influencers and athletes in the NIL space. So look us up, find me, DM me if you want to know more and join our AIM athletic community. For today, we're talking about the best in the world, and the best in the world certainly understand grit. And that's a huge one for us as we get out there and we discover like, wow, hey, how do I do grit really well? And what is grit? Grit is founded on the original book by Angela Duckworth, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. Angela really dove into the research of like, hey, what is grit? We also hear, you may have heard the term sisu, which is a Finnish term for grit. And sisu was this language and word that often was used in the Finland country and the Finnish states of, hey, what does it mean to have this perseverance, to have grit? And so that became a big word. I've heard it a ton. And this book, if you have not read it, is something you definitely want to check out. One of the things that really sets athletes and apart, people, entrepreneurs, 1%ers in this world, are certainly the fact that they certainly understand this passion, the power of it. And then, of course, their ability to persevere through challenging times. And that's really what our show is all about. I love the quote, "Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win." You can find this in the 4 Disciplines of Execution book by Chris McChesney and Sean Covey. And that just rings so true to me in my athletic endeavors on the way to a college and a professional career in sports and coaching all these fabulous athletes. Like, winners find a way to win. We are resolute, we're resolved, and very solution-driven and resourceful. And when we talk about that power of passion, I definitely want to say there's a formula that we have developed around leadership where we start talking about like, man, how could we do this formula really well and develop grit in our team members? And so they understand, hey, what does grit mean? And how's that look when we talk about different levels of winning, different levels of talent, different levels of effort? And if there's one thing that people really get, it is the fact that when you really get down to the grit formula, you really understand that there's a couple key elements of the formula. And that formula certainly is brought upon by which, I'm going to just go to my screen here, which is that formula that drives in. So there's my multiple screen, but I will open up the grit formula here. And as we see that in the grit formula on the StreamYard, I'm going to have to change that. That's not going to work that way. I apologize. Let me stop that share and go back to my screen here. So when we talk about that grit formula, the formula is talent times effort equals skill. And I want to see if we can get this back up here. Talent times effort equals skill. So when you look at this formula, as we're sharing this, if I were to sit there and go, okay, well, hey, here's my talent times effort, and it equals skill. And then we drop down and we get that skill times effort equals achievement. That's a big deal. And we run into this, okay, well, how do I do this well? How do I get this thing going so it really makes sense? And what a lot of probably organizations who assess talent don't take in light of is that effort quotient. And that's why calling on references, when you build out your team, it's going to be so important of who you get. And when I look at this, I always see this factor of like, okay, how do we do talent times effort equals skill, right? So if I was sitting back and saying, okay, well, I've got talent times effort. If I am a 10 talent and someone says, wow, they are recognized this person to be so great, they've got to be super high achiever because they have so much talent. And that's exactly not true. This is where a lot of the professional sports teams missed it for so many years, was that they would look at top tier talent and say, got to have them. They're so talented, 10 talent. But what happens if that effort is a 3, right? If that effort's a 3, that's a major issue. So if we go talent times 10, effort times 3, skill equals 30. We drop that down to that next level, skill of 30 times effort 3, that's an achievement level of 90. That's a horribly low number. As I look at this chart over here on the right, I recognize like, wow, this chart, and let me just blow this up real quick. This chart gives me a good line base for what I'm looking for on organizations and teams. I'm often looking for leaders and executives and high-level performers. I spend a ton of time with the top 3% performers, and they are 900s. That's who the top 3% are. They are 900 level people, which means they have either a 10 talent or a 9 effort, or vice versa. 9 talent, 10 effort, right? So if you've got that effort, they almost have to have that 10 effort, right? So you got 9, 10. So you got 9 skill, 10 effort, 90 times 10, 900. If you've got the other way, it doesn't quite work, right? Because you've got 10 talent times 9 effort, 90. But then when you go, okay, I've got a 90 skill times 10, then what, right? So we always have to battle that as we look at, okay, how can I do this really well? So as I have seen this many times in organizations, and we talk about that 200 level, that is an absolute critical mark for me. Is like, if we are sub 200 on folks, we should not probably be bringing these people into our organizations, into our teams, into our clubs, because they tend to cause a ton of challenge. And the problem is we could have somebody very talented that could be under a 200. We just talked about that. 10 talent with a 3 effort is a 90. That's way below the 200 line. So as we look at this, and we just do, simply across the board, and we do a 5 effort with a 5 skill with our 5 talent with a 10 effort, we're talking about a 50 skill. And 50 times 10 is 500. As you see on the scale, you see regional directors, you see vice presidents in this space. That is not uncommon. People who are willing to work always play, because effort counts twice on that achievement scale. And so if I was to look at, I could bypass and I would put a ton more of energy as a leader. And the best in the world really get this, that effort cannot be replaced, and it duplicates twice in the margin of achievement, no matter what your talent is. I like to use the example of Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a fabulous athlete. Most people know him. He's probably notorious as one of the lowest scored athletes ever at the combine. And yet, here's his talent on his physical tools. People didn't think he had the physical tools to compete in the NFL, which dropped his draft status very low. But if he came into the NFL, and he was the starting quarterback at the University of Michigan, so he's not a slouch on talent as a quarterback. So if we took that and we said, hey, this guy is a 6 talent compared to NFL, because he's not physically what they think he's going to be, but his effort is a 10. His effort on being a good teammate, his effort on doing video and preparation, his effort on getting the reps in practice, his effort on studying the opponent, his effort on being coachable and listening to feedback is 10s across the board. So a 6 times 10 is a 60. 60 times 10 is a 600. Tom Brady comes into the league as a 600 already in a leader position, someone you'd want in the C-suite in your organization. But over time, very quickly, because of this effort and every rep he makes count, he all of a sudden leads himself into in 2 to 3 years, he's a 7 talent. He's improved his talent significantly. He's gotten stronger. He's gotten smarter on how to take care of himself. Now he has TB12, a great brand. And so here he goes, a few more years. He's an 8 talent, right? And then, of course, is he the most talented player in the NFL today? Probably not. There's probably other quarterbacks who have stronger arms, who can run faster, who can do some things. Fine. But at the end of the day, I think his talent's a solid 9. His efforts remained a 10 the whole time. So 9 times 10, he's a 90. Times 10, he's a 900. And he's proven that out for years and years and years. And he's an ace, right? So when we talk about that grit formula, we are looking for aces in our organization. And I always use the CARD acronym: coachability, adaptability, responsibility, and dependability. They prove out they could do those 3 things again and again and again and get results. And that is Tom Brady, who's absolutely owned the grit formula for a ton of time. And you can put up probably some of the best in the world when you look at Michael Jordan and some of the best people that you can think in your given area of expertise. If it was music or something like that, you look at even from KISS, Gene Simmons, the man's effort level to create his business and work. It was often said that Gene Simmons was only sleeping like 4 hours a day because he was working hard on the brand and building his business acumen, in addition to his talent being the lead singer of KISS. It was doing some amazing things in merchandise all through the 80s, 70s. And so look back at the grit formula. I often put this up against members of my organization. I use this as a talking point and a point to sit down one-on-one with my fellow team members, people in my organization, people I want to advance, and say, hey, where do you think you are on this today? And they can think about, hey, how does my effort show up? Oftentimes, this is one of those ones where we judge ourselves by our intentions and we judge others by their actions. And when I'm sitting there, I might judge someone's actions on my team as a 6 effort. And then they could say, boy, I intend to have 8 effort. I intend to bring it all the time, do a lot of extra work. But, some things get in the way. And so I didn't get this done and I didn't get that done. And so their intentions are high, but you can't give yourself an 8 effort if the action's not there. And so oftentimes it's someone else who's going to have to let and assess, a trusted advisor for you, a coach who can say, hey, what is my effort level today? So go back to the drawing board on this. Take a look at your grit formula. What am I on the grit formula? What are my team members? I often have organizations rank on the grit formula their personnel on who they would keep, and they would look at some of their bonus structures based on that grit formula on how do they contribute to the team, because often the highest grit formula personnel are the biggest contributors. So if you're looking to take yourself to the next level and be elite, do what the best in the world do, understand the grit formula. Talent can only get you so far. Effort is the thing that will take you to the next level and will make the difference and separate you from everybody else. Thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark. Look for interviews, content on our Leadershipity YouTube channel, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live every Friday on the Winners Find a Way show. And of course, our podcast is always up on all your major networks, and you can see that on the Winners Find a Way show, all the interviews and the talent there, some great stories of 1%ers and how they overcame and created their legacies. So check us out there. And until next time, happy 4th of July, everybody. I hope you go enjoy this weekend and be awesome out there. Celebrate our nation's birthday. We'll see you then.
Rebellious Infusions are organic flavored water enhancers. Rebellious provides clean, focused energy in liquid packets. Just tear the corner of the packet and pour 16 ounces of water. Rebellious Infusions have no sugar, no calories, and up to 300 milligrams of antioxidants, and loads of L-theanine for brain health. Rethink your drink at drinkrebellious.com. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999. Thank you for listening to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast. Trent, together with the leaders who shared their learning and experiences through this show, are grateful for allowing them to help and support you on your journey to becoming your best. Write a review, rate us 5 stars, and share this episode to your network.